And a debate right now in Oakland that could change how the city is run. The city council could decide tonight to send a measure to the November ballot that would strengthen the mayor's powers. That proposal is already facing pushback from some members of the council. This is a live look at the meeting underway right now, where they're hearing public comment on the resolution. John Ramos spoke with both the city leaders on both sides of this proposal.
You won't find a lot of people in Oakland who think the city is well run, but how you feel about changing the way things are done may boil down to who you do or do not trust. Two weeks ago, Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee made a rare appearance before the City Council to promote a ballot initiative that would give her a lot more power over the operation of the city.
Oakland is at a turning point, and the status quo needs to change.
The proposal would convert Oakland to a strong mayor form of government, where the mayor becomes chief executive with power over the city administrator and virtually all aspects of the city's operations.
This proposal is not about concentrating power in the hands of any one elected official. It's about structural change, clarifying responsibilities so the public knows who is accountable when action is needed and how government can more effectively deliver constituent services.
Council members would simply pass legislation, but even then, the mayor would have veto power that could be overridden only with a supermajority. Not surprisingly, some council members object to the idea of having city services taken out of their hands.
Then what is a council member even for than to act as a punching bag to absorb bad vibes? And I'm pretty good at taking a punch, but I don't know why anybody would want that job.
And to further concentrate power in the hands of one individual is the perception that a lot of Oaklanders have right now. So then we are once again fighting an uphill battle about trust in local government.
But Councilmember Charlene Wang says she supports the idea simply as a way to break the city's current dysfunction.
We need to empower a mayor to be a real change maker and to break through red tape and the bureaucracy, and we need to empower them to make change.
Professor Dan Lindheim teaches at the Goldman School of Public Policy at UC Berkeley. He served as Oakland City Administrator, but has a hard time thinking the change would make much of a difference.
Some of the debate, I think, is a little overwrought, and I don't really think that Oakland will be better or worse because of it. I don't think Oakland's problems are because of its bizarre charter.
The city's charter is a weird hybrid system created when Mayor Jerry Brown decided he didn't want to attend council meetings anymore. Lindheim supports the idea of the proposal in concept, even if he doesn't think it will make a huge change. But with the defeat of Measure E earlier this month, he has his doubts the voters will be keen to give anyone too much power.
My guess is the council is going to be respectful toward the mayor to put it on the ballot, and then they're going to campaign against it.
The measure would do other things as well, such as paying council members more while prohibiting them from having other jobs, and creating a budget office at City Hall. But if power is the true capital of politics, it's shaping up to be quite a battle.
And the proposal already passed one preliminary vote by the council. It's expected that this evening's vote will send the issue to the voters to decide in November.